whatever.
So, because in order to get to change, and this is again where I think Trump and Dr. Phil, et cetera, are right in what he mentioned earlier, which is sometimes we got to rock the boat a little bit, right? And the status quo is not working for us. And that's what the Democratic Party is not understanding. Like, so when they keep running on status quo, that's a losing message because we're having a lot of trouble with the status quo, right? And so, but in order to get beyond the status quo, yeah, we're going to have to rock that boat and it's going to get uncomfortable for some people. But what we want is uncomfortable for the right people, not the wrong people, right? Uncomfortable for the donors, uncomfortable for the people that are rigging the system, uncomfortable for the people doing waste, fraud, and abuse, but not uncomfortable for the guy who just moved his family to Kansas and thought he was getting a job with the government and was really psyched about it and had bought a house. And now all of a sudden the rug is pulled out. Let's do better. Let's do better.
Yeah, that is some disturbing shit. Like, imagine that for a moment. How many lives are being completely destroyed? Completely, as a result of what's happening right now. It's so disturbing.
But once you got the bad guys, I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans. Let's go get them, right? So we got to do that to get you a better situation.
Speaking about bad guys, how do you feel this administration is doing on immigration? Good, bad, indifferent?
Horrific. And of course, Dr. Phil famously went with ICE on some of the ICE raids. And while on those raids, in Dr. Phil's program, he said Tom Homan, the leader of ICE, basically said, when we get there, we find a bunch of other, like, foreign-looking people, like Mexicans, and we force them to give us their papers and deport them if they are undocumented. So he claims we're just going after criminals. But it's not true. That is a complete lie. That is a lie. They use criminals to find other undocumented immigrants who are not criminals.
If you think they're doing a good job, raise your hand. Think they're doing a good job, raise your hand. If you think, no, they're not doing a good job, raise your hand. Okay, stand up and tell me your name. We'll get you a microphone. Why are they not doing a good job?
My name is Danny, and I have a problem with a birthright citizen being deported. If a birthright citizen can be deported from this country, there is no one in this audience that cannot be deported with a stroke of a pen.
Okay.
Absolutely. Birthright citizenship is enshrined in the Constitution. It's pretty clear. You cannot interpret that out of the Constitution. That's like trying to interpret the Constitution to say that murder is okay. It's not in the Constitution that murder is okay. It's just not. So anyway, birthright citizens are people that came here. Birthright citizens are people that were born here and are here legally, 100% legally, and they're still being deported despite that fact. I mean, real disturbing shit right there. I really appreciate that this guy said that because a lot of people don't even realize that.
And so by birthright citizen, you mean somebody was born here no matter where their parents from. Okay. Do you feel like the focus, and y'all probably, the
What happened?
The pedophiles, the drug dealers, the murderers,
They shouldn't be deported. Send them through the legal system. Why would we send them somewhere else where they can do that shit again? They are citizens of this country. We have a responsibility to charge them with the crimes that they have committed, period. In fact, even non-citizens should go through our legal system and spend time in our jails. They shouldn't be sent out somewhere else to get away with more crimes, period. I don't know what you're smoking. You think this is a good idea?
gang members, the
He's literally talking about deporting U.S. citizens.
Bad actors. Let's get them off the streets first. And I know that's what they're working on because I've been in with them. I've been embedded with them on the streets with them. And I know that's who they're going after. They're not.
Again, they at best, at absolute best, they find people who have some kind of a criminal record, even if they were just accused of a crime. And then they find everybody in the vicinity and get their papers and their documentation. So they are getting people who are completely innocuous. And if some girl gets in trouble at school and is accused of stealing, the paper towels or something, cops show up, they check their citizenship and deport them. She didn't even commit a crime. There are no crimes here that she's committed at all. She hasn't been charged with them. She hasn't been convicted of them. She's been accused at best of some petty crime of taking paper towels, and they deport her. Talking a 16-year-old kid, has never been to the other country before because she's born here.
Sweeping through neighborhoods. They're not looking for birthright people. They're going after the criminals right now, and
they really aren't.
Got more of that than I think they can do in 4 years. Are you okay with them going after the criminals?
No, because that's unconstitutional.
Okay, so...
Well, one person claps.
Okay, you're going to have to help me out on that. First off, are you guys okay with them going after the criminals? Okay, because I've been with them when they arrested drug dealing, arm dealing criminals. Would you like us to get those?
No, send them through our legal system. They should not be released into another country, period. They should face charges for their crimes here and now.
Guys arrested and then turn them loose?
If they're a birthright citizen, they should go through the exact legal process that any American would go through.
No, I'm not saying birthright citizen. I don't care if they're Irish. It wouldn't make a difference to me. But if they're illegal aliens that are in this country and they're violent criminals, you want them taken off the street, right?
Yes, put them into a prison. Of course.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if they're blonde and blue-eyed, you want them off the street. But certainly if they're illegal aliens, you have no problem with them being targeted.
Yes, I have no problem with that. I don't know how the conversation took that turn.
Well, I changed the subject.
Why? We weren't talking about this subject. We were talking about something else.
Okay.
I broadened the subject to say beyond, you covered birthright citizens, and then I used you as a prop to go to some other issues.
Yes.
Since you were standing up.
Okay. He's acting like this dude is the idiot here. Phil is trying to change the scenario to get this guy to agree with him that criminals should be taken off the streets. He's changing it to get this guy to agree with the original premise when he simply doesn't. I love this dude. This guy is awesome.
Now, I just wanted to ask a broader question. But if they're birthright citizens, you think they should be tried and imprisoned in the U.S.?
Yes, I believe we should follow the Constitution.
Yeah. Like, who the wouldn't think that?
Yeah, okay. And I don't think that's constitutional, but...
Well, you're fucking wrong. You're wrong, Phil, if you don't think that. You like making a fucking fool of yourself on your own TV show? Is that something you make a habit of doing?
Nonetheless.
Birthright citizenry is.
Well...
That's not a gray area.
Where they go to prison...
No, it's not a gray area. They go to prison in the United States because they're United States citizens.
Citizenry is.
Well,
that's not a gray area.
Where they go to prison, as long as they go to prison, I don't care. As long as if they're taken off the street.
And I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. All
so just to be clear, birthright citizens want them to stay here. The great majority of Americans agree with that. If they commit a crime, they go to prison, but they stay here. But if they're not born here, they're not citizens, and
then send them to prison. You want them to get away with this? I don't understand.
They're criminals. All of you are saying, okay, let's send them back. Once, by the way, they've served their time because they should get justice.
Yeah, exactly. What? Why are we deporting criminals? We should not be deporting criminals.
Right here in America.
And please tell me that's not Cenk. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, bud. It is. It is Cenk. Sorry to ruin your day.
Then you send them back. So do you agree with all that?
Yes.
Right. So I think, Dr. Phil, where the rubber hits the road is what happens once we get past the criminals who are undocumented immigrants?
Well, that's what I was saying. I think there's a lot to be done on that. And then
Okay, so once a criminal has served their time to society, in my personal opinion, it's irrelevant beyond that. I don't care. I don't even pay attention to the criminal charge anymore. If somebody goes, say, 5 or even 10 years without committing a crime, their previous crimes from the past 5 or 10 years should fall off. And they do, as a matter of fact. They do. Felonies disappear after 10 years, to my knowledge. Oh, it has to be expunged through a legal process if it's a felony. State laws vary. Some states have laws that limit how far back a conviction can be reported on a background check, but it doesn't erase it from your criminal record. You can petition for an expungement after a certain amount of time. When can I petition for expungement felony PA. Just pick a random state. If you've received a pardon from the governor, apply for a pardon. Hang on. I'm just trying to figure out when can you expunge a felony? Wow, it's actually really strict in Pennsylvania, apparently. Oh, here we go. 1 year for a misdemeanor. If you've waited 5 years from the last date of either conviction, completion of your incarceration, or completion of supervision under parole or probation to apply for expungement. 1 year for a misdemeanor, 2 years for multiple misdemeanors, or 5 years for a felony. I didn't know that. Yeah, I like that rule. I like that a lot. If you go 5 years without getting a criminal charge, I think you've changed. And I believe people should have a path to redemption. People should be able to kind of course correct their life and not have the past haunt them forever. So anyway, maybe if another criminal charge appears, then they reappear. But yeah, that's my opinion. At any rate, after they serve their time, within 5 years of that, in my personal opinion, that it should be expunged, and it shouldn't matter. With Dr. Phil, what he's saying here, it shouldn't matter if they have a criminal past, if they've moved beyond it. If they haven't moved beyond their criminal past, send them through the legal system. Don't deport them.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, step back.
Well, that's what I was saying. I think there's a lot to be done on that. And then okay, thank you. I didn't want to make you just stand there the whole time. You got a chair, you can sit down. Okay.
Oh, he put his arm across his wife. That's nice, huh?
What do you wish the president and this administration would focus on more than they are so far? Is there something they haven't gotten to yet?
Cutting the Pentagon.
Yeah, I would love them to cut defense spending. That's another black hole that is just like, it just sucks up resources and it's not really going to anything useful at all. So, yeah.
Cutting the Pentagon. Okay. Yes, ma'am. We'll talk about that too. Say again.
Sarah, working with pharma to reduce the prices of drugs. I work in that pharmacy. I work in a PBM, and we have to negotiate those rates with pharma. And if pharma keeps having the advantage and gets to call what the price is, then we have no chance here.
Mm-hmm. Do you think RFK Jr. is going to focus on that?
Yeah.
Really? No. He's going to focus on getting vaccines off the market and killing more people. Honestly, in my personal opinion, I don't know. I guess we'll see how this plays out, but I believe that it's possible that maybe RFK Jr. will mellow out and learn that vaccines are actually very important and valuable. I guess we'll see, but I think that he's going to completely flip his position that he holds right now.
Yes, I do. I hope so.
Yeah, he's going to join us tonight by Zoom also.
Ew.
And I've talked to him a lot, and he's going to make it where you can negotiate prices with big pharma, which
wow, I would love that. That would be great.
Is spooky.
Wait, did their lights just go off? Is that what happened?
With big pharma, which is
yeah, their lights went off. Huh? What do they have, like motion sensing lights or something?
Spooky.
That was big pharma.
Yeah.
More powerful than you realize.
Yeah. But yeah, does everybody agree that you should be able to negotiate pharmaceutical prices? Everybody agree with that? Raise your hand real high. Okay. Anybody disagree with that? Okay. I mean, this is a free market, right? You should be able to negotiate big pharma.
Yeah, listen, that's where I would tell my friends on the left, if they do that and they negotiate drug prices, then they deserve a tremendous amount of credit.
Okay, but there's kind of what would you call, like a moral weight here. Are they doing horrific amounts of damage in other ways? Are the things that they're doing overall more helpful than not? So right now, they are demonizing trans people to a degree that it is absolutely crossed into stochastic terrorism against the trans community beyond a shadow of a doubt. Will that outweigh, or will them allowing drug prices to be negotiated, will that outweigh the damage you're doing to people's lives by using stochastic terrorism against the trans community? The answer is no. So I still don't fucking like the administration, even if they did that. Even if they gave universal health care to everybody. Even if they lowered the price of eggs, I still wouldn't fucking like this administration because they're demonizing trans people to a point where they're being murdered. So yeah, sorry, you're not going to win me over on this one. When they stop demonizing trans people to the degree where they're being murdered, I'll be happy.
Because, you know, Democratic and Republican presidents, including Trump in his first term, promised to do it and didn't do it. Including Obama, he promised to do it and didn't do it. So if they promise to do it and they do it, then I'll give them all the credit in the world, but they actually got to do it.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And the fact that we're paying more for health care and delivering the lowest quality health care out of developed countries is an embarrassment. I mean,
I appreciate that Phil recognized that. That's interesting. I didn't expect him to acknowledge that.
it's a shame. You know, there are 50 countries in the world where a mother has a better chance of surviving childbirth than in America. There are 50 countries where the baby has a better chance of surviving than in America. That is shameful.
I love that.
Absolutely shameful. And then we pay more for we pay more for pharmaceuticals than
For everything.
I mean, you can go to Detroit and drive across one bridge and pay a tenth for something that you get in America. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so what he's saying is people go to Canada and buy medicines that were purchased in Canada. I'm sorry, that were purchased in the United States originally, shipped to Canada. And Canada got them for a lower price, and it's so low that Canada can make a profit on this stuff by selling it to you, even though it came from Canada, and you're still getting, I'm sorry, even though it came from America, and you're still getting it cheaper. So yeah, it's shameful. That's not even an adequate word for it.
We're having this trade war with Canada. Can we just solve it by them sending the cheap drugs to us? Right? And by the way, they're the same exact drugs. They're not any cheaper. They just cost less, right? They're the same drugs. Guys, again, the pharmaceutical companies in this country have a strangle lock in Washington. Washington is occupied by all these corporate donors. And so to the point that Dr. Phil was making, what kind of capitalism is this where you can't negotiate drug prices? I mean, I've never heard of this in a free market where the guys selling you the product say you have to pay this. It's unheard of. The only reason that they're doing it is crony capitalism. So where they pay off the politicians. And so why didn't Obama do it and why didn't Trump do it in his first term? They go to Congress, even if they mean well, they go to Congress and almost everybody in Congress is bought. They get so much money from the drug companies. And that's what we got to shine a spotlight on. To your point, yes, we've got to bring us together. But sometimes we got to do it in an aggressive way. Which one of you guys are all taking money from pharma? And which one of you are blocking capitalism and the free market and keeping drug prices so high we can't afford them? And people are dying because of that.
Yeah.
One person clapping over here. Jesus Christ, dude. What happened? Seriously, how is it that people don't clap for that, of all things?
I couldn't agree more. It's shameful. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Stand up. We'll bring you a microphone. Say your first name.
Hi, my name is Valerie. I think that if we started with term limits, we wouldn't have lifelong policies.
Oh, she's the Trump nutcase who has raised her hand for every Trump positive question and every Trump negative question. She's kept it down.
Politicians that
term limits. I like term limits, I suppose. Yeah, sure.
Then we wouldn't have all of these companies, including the pharmaceuticals, in the politicians' pockets. So if we started with that, we can start to weed some of the corruption out. We also need to get all of the pharmaceuticals off of TV. They do not need to be every other commercial. They don't.
I agree. Absolutely. Not just off of TV, but make it like tobacco where it's illegal to advertise for pharmaceutical medicines. And not only that, I don't even think the advertising is the problem so much on TV and stuff. I think more of the issue is advertising to doctors. I happen to know how this works. because I've researched the opioid epidemic like a bunch. And pharmaceutical companies, I'm not just talking about opiates here, they will bring their medicines into doctors' offices and give them like a ton of this stuff for free. And the doctors will be able to just like give it to the patients for free, which makes the doctors look good. The pharmaceutical companies will give the doctors like a ton of money to give speeches at their events, like millions of dollars to just go talk for an hour about what? Like, what could the doctor have to say that could possibly be more valuable than, or could be worth $1 million to a bunch of pharmaceutical reps? Nothing. They'll make deals with doctors to get them to sell their medicine if they speak at their events. It's just crooked. Everything about it is crooked. And I believe that in the United States, we have laws that make it a legal requirement for doctors to report who they got paid to speak in front of. So you can look up your doctor and find out. I looked up, like, my doctor in West Virginia many, many years ago. I was getting Suboxone from him, and he had a reputation for being crooked. And I was like, it doesn't seem right to me. So I just go in and I'm getting my medicine from him. And he's plenty nice. He doesn't seem crooked to me. He's just a normal guy. He's asking if I'm taking my medicine and how much and trying to help me out, whatever. Didn't seem crooked. Then I look him up on this website to see, like, is he taking any money from these pharmaceutical companies? And the answer is yes. Tens of millions of dollars. Literally, tens of millions of dollars. Do you know how much money that is? That's crazy. That is crazy money for a doctor to have. Tens of millions of dollars to just speak for an hour. Within 6 months, I ended up getting kicked out of the program because the nurses didn't like me. Just complete pieces of shit, all of them. Like, I've never done anything wrong. I never failed a drug test when I was on Suboxone. I'm still on Suboxone. I've never failed a drug test. I've never failed like a pill count is what it's called, or a strip count or whatever. I've never failed any of those tests. And these nurses just didn't fucking like me. Anyway, they kicked me out. 6 months after being kicked out, his office was shut down by the government. I'm not sure which, FBI maybe? I'm not sure who shut him down. He was shut down because he opened a pharmacy next door in his office and was sending all of his patients over there. It was it was a policy that they must go next door to that pharmacy to have their medicine filled. And the pharmacy only carried the brands of medicine that the doctor worked with, that the doctor was paid by, who the reps would come speak or whatever. And it was like super illegal. And he had his license yanked and the whole 9 yards. Dr. Sachs was his name in Barboursville, West Virginia. So anyway, that kind of shit happens like all the time. All the time.
They do not need to be every other commercial. They don't need to be on the Super Bowl. And that's a good start. But I agree. And I'm a huge Trump fan, but I really think that
No. Knock me over with a feather. I couldn't accept that. That's not true, is it?
is the way to get rid of the corruption with the pharmaceutical.
That would certainly help. How many agree with that? If we had term limits where people couldn't get bought forever. Yeah.
I mean, we could just ban people from being bought. Is that an option, you think, maybe? Like ban lobbying or whatever? Ban donations that are over $100 per person. And if you run a political ad, then you absolutely must register that ad with like the FAA, or what is that what it is? No, the FTC, Federal Trade. No, that's the Federal Trade. The FCC, Federal Communications Commission. You must register with them to run any political ads at all. And you know, each ad is considered a donation to the campaign and stuff. And you have to give equal time. So if you run an ad for one, you must run an ad of equal time to the other. Also, maybe reinstitute the fairness doctrine. I would love to see that. That was done away with under Reagan, I believe. And it was basically an equal time type of deal. You had to give equal time to both sides. Yeah, I would love to see that stuff. But are we going to? Of course not. You know why? Because the ones that are making these laws are the ones that are benefiting from this stuff. We are never going to see that. You think Trump is going to come in and fix everything. He hasn't. He's had 5 years to do it now. And, we're waiting. Any second, right? Going to happen any second.
Okay.
So I'll just say something real quick about that. If you're wondering why all of our politicians are so old, like Mitch McConnell freezes in a press conference, Biden's brain fell out in a debate. Right.
Yeah. So he couldn't remember a word for 30 seconds. Biden couldn't. He didn't freeze up. Mitch McConnell straight up froze up. Biden was perfectly fine. There was no brain damage with Biden or whatever. I refuse to feed into this framing. It's bullshit. Biden was fine.
Right. So, but Pelosi, all these guys so old because the donors get a return on investment and they know that's stable. Whenever I go back to Biden and McConnell, I'm going to get my money's worth. And so that's why they keep buying them over and over and over again. That's why they're so old. So I hear you on term.
That's why they're so old, because they keep being bought. I think they're old because they were born in 1942, but okay.
Limits, I would say also money out of politics. I mean, that's the biggest thing there is. That's the number one way that they purchase these politicians.
See, I have a theory, and I wonder how you guys feel about this. I'm going to ask you that in just a minute, but I want to hear from you first. Say your first name.
Helen.
All right, Helen.
And I think one of the problems is there's no kickbacks. There's no paying to aggressively teach healthy living, healthy eating.
I'm not sure what that means, but this is putting on personal responsibility. And personal responsibilities, or let me rephrase, preaching that people should be personally responsible for these things isn't enough. It's not enough. People just aren't going to hear the campaign. Some people just aren't going to be aware of it. Some people just aren't going to care. It's like people saying, black fathers need to stay in the homes with the kids and all that other shit, and it's their fault. Well, you can say that all you want, but you saying that doesn't change anything at all. You want to change policy and laws to incentivize things like that. People who say that about black fathers and how there should be personal responsibility, they're looking for a way to blame the black community for the disparities that you find in the black community. The fact is, disparities are found for one of two reasons. For example, the black murder rate is higher than the white murder rate for one of two reasons. Either it's because there is a social problem that happened. Jim Crow laws kind of crippled the black community from the start. That's one of the possible causes of this. General mistreatment by the police or whatever. You know what? It could be anything. It could be any number of reasons why there's a disparity in the black community. So it's either a social thing that can be fixed, or it's a genetic problem. They're just genetically inferior, in which case you're a Nazi. Either it's social and it can be fixed, or it's genetic and you're a Nazi. So this whole we need to teach people to do the right thing with their lives bit, this is a Republican talking point used to denigrate and to demean the black community. Doesn't actually accomplish anything at all. Doesn't get us anywhere. Yeah, okay, great, fine. Increase education to prevent people from doing drugs. All right, great. But you're going to have to take additional regulatory steps to incentivize this stuff through the government, or it's just not, or you're not going to accomplish literally anything. It's not going to get you anywhere.
Healthy living, healthy eating, healthy habits. Pharmaceuticals depend upon us living unhealthy.
No, they don't.
If we lived healthy lifestyles, we wouldn't have to depend upon pharmaceuticals.
No, that's not true. We would absolutely still have to depend on. Are you shitting me? You think that depression is the result of somebody not eating right or something? What are you talking about? Where did you get that? Who told you that?
And that's where we would be.
One person clapping here. Why is that one person clapping? Nobody should be clapping for this stupid shit.
Getting the prices down because there wouldn't be the need for them. Every doctor's, I'm on one prescription. I'm 76 years old.
Shame on you. You should be living healthier.
Okay. Now,
It's called good genes, by the way. My grandpa, smoked cigarettes and drank a case of beer per night. That's 20 beers per night after coming home from working on the railroad. Since 14 years old. I am not joking. I am not exaggerating. 2 packs of Camel unfiltered cigarettes every day. That's like 1 cigarette every 15 minutes. And he's like 90. Okay? Some people just have the genes for it. Most people don't. If people lived as hard and fast as this dude did his entire life since 14, they would be dead by 30, practically. Some people just have good genes. That's what it is. It's a kind of a roll of the dice. It doesn't mean you know what you're doing. People too often mistake absolute, pure, unadulterated luck for hard work. You see this with Elon Musk. You see this with Trump. And honestly, you don't see this with me because I recognize that my success is pure, unadulterated luck. These people they lucked into their positions. Or they stepped on people's faces to get there. Or both, I suppose. Could be both. Anyway, the point is, this woman doesn't seem to recognize the fact that she just got lucky. If I had done anything differently at all, anywhere along the line with my YouTube channel, it wouldn't have worked. It would have fallen apart. I wouldn't have ever gone anywhere. It was pure, unadulterated luck. It all boils down to luck with YouTube.
I take supplements. I try to eat healthy. I try to live healthy. But pharmaceuticals not making much money on me. And if that was taught
Oh my God, dude.
from government level down, that would be something that would get the pharmaceuticals in line because they would have to negotiate.
Yeah, good point.
No, not a good point. This is f***ing stupid. This is dumb as dog shit. There is no good point to be found here. Okay, depression is not like something you can fix by eating healthy. Anxiety is not fixed that way. High blood pressure comes with age. Yeah, sure, you can keep your blood pressure down if you eat a certain way, but I don't know what the percentage is. I'll just throw a number out. 60% of people over the age of like 55 are going to have high blood pressure, and that's just what it is, period. It doesn't matter how healthy they are. That's just how that's how our bodies work. They start to fall apart at a certain point. You're confusing luck with hard work. You can't hard work your way into low blood pressure. Not every single human being can hard work their way into low blood pressure, or like regular blood pressure, I mean.
But I tell you what, if you go to an insurance company and say, we want to teach stress management and healthy living, no, we don't want to talk prevention.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, they just don't like, that's because they don't like spending money.
Even though it makes sense. Yes, ma'am. Stand up. We'll bring you a microphone.
They would save more money by talking about prevention because that means they don't have to pay out, but you're still paying into them. That doesn't even make any sense.
Hi, my name is Marjorie, and I want to talk about the Doge, the money that we're just wasting, the money that's being stolen, the money that's being laundered.
Okay, I can immediately tell she's on Elon Musk's side here. There has been no evidence, zero, none, not one piece of evidence that Doge has uncovered any kind of corruption or fraud or abuse or whatever.
Everybody's screaming this about what they're doing, but nobody is doing anything. How long are we going to let them rob the bank? And instead of us saying, yeah, let's find out who's robbing the bank, we yell at the people who caught the people who were robbing the bank.
Because nobody caught anyone robbing the bank. That's the thing. There's no evidence of anybody stealing in the government. None, except for Elon.
And that's what we're doing. Everybody's mad because they don't want Trump to be the one to find the people who are laundering money, stealing money, all this kind of.
Look, he's had 2 months to be in the system. In fact, be in systems he's not even supposed to be in. He's had 2 months, okay? And he's found nothing. No evidence of fraud. Zero. He's found evidence of programs that he didn't like, but not one example of fraud or like abuse or any of it. So I'm going to call it. I'm going to say there's no fraud or abuse or anything in the government. It absolutely would have been uncovered by now.
Kind of stuff, but nobody is doing anything about it. I'm concerned about Social Security. I'm concerned that they have all these people on the Social Security list, that don't exist or that are dead or all this kind.
But that's fake. That was all fictitious. It was made up. Are you shitting me? Do you really believe this? This is the saddest shit ever. How are you such a sucker that you would believe this?
Kind of stuff. We need to recover the money. But people are so concerned about who recovers. Democrats don't want him to get the credit for recovering the money. So they're
if they're not recovering any money, what the f are you talking about?
Yelling and screaming. It's like somebody's painting the wall and somebody's standing in the background saying, you missed the spot. You missed the spot.
No, it's not like that in any way, shape, or form. They're saying you have no right to paint that wall. That wall is being painted by Congress. Congress pays for that paint, and you're just coming in and stealing shit from people and painting it anyway, and we don't even like that fucking color. It's Congress's position they have the power of the purse. It's their job to do this shit, not yours.
But you're not painting the wall. So we need somebody to recover this money. We're $37 trillion in debt.
Do you know why? Because Republicans have cut taxes until until nobody even, all right, let me rephrase. Until the rich practically aren't even paying taxes anymore. You know how you fix that? Raise taxes. You raise taxes. Right now, Donald Trump is approving and pushing through a budget, and Republicans, actually, congressional Republicans, pushing through a budget that will add $4 trillion to the debt by cutting taxes. So $34 trillion, well, we're about to be $38 trillion in debt because Donald Trump is cutting taxes again. You know that they could raise taxes to a point where the debt would just disappear within the next 10 years and nobody would suffer from it. Not one single person. Nobody. Everything would stay exactly the same. Everybody's lives would stay exactly as they are right now. There'd be no material suffering whatsoever. Mark Zuckerberg's net worth would go down from 400 billion to maybe 320 billion, but he'll survive. He's not even going to have to sell his house or any of his 37 cars or however many he has. That's the problem. The problem is that Trump is lowering taxes. All of these people are lowering taxes, Republicans, and then saying we have to cut money from the poor to fund the government.
And we have money just going out the window, billions of dollars. We would need Tunnel to Towers. We would need Wounded Warriors Project if the government
taxed billionaires. Absolutely. Wounded Warriors, by the way, is an absolutely terrible organization. Like, they're really bad. Most of their money does not go to veterans. But charities shouldn't exist. They exist because they have to fill a hole that the government is not filling, that it should be filling.
Would stop wasting the money and treat our soldiers like they treat people all over the world who do not deserve our tax money.
It has nothing to do with not spending money on stuff. It has to do with taking in more money.
Yeah. That's the real deal.
I agree.
That's the real deal.
This is so fucking sad. There aren't enough programs that we could cut to make up the difference. The only way to fix this is either to do away with Social Security, thus stealing people's money that they have already paid in the process. And yeah, the only way to fix this without raising taxes is to just stop spending any money on the government at all. On, Social Security, Medicaid, everything. Just stop spending money, period. Do you really want to live in a world like that? I'll answer it for you. No, you don't. Trust me, you don't. 30% of our elderly population was poor, was impoverished before Social Security. And Social Security is entirely too low now anyway.
I agree. And I have a theory. And I'll tell you my theory, and you can think about this and tell me if you agree.
I just don't understand why taxing billionaires is not part of the conversation for the right.
I have a theory because I've spent a lot of my career studying why people do what they do and don't do what they don't do. And think about that.
Yeah, I bet.
If you figure out why people do what they do and don't do what they don't do, then you got a real leg up on the world. Seriously, think about that. If you understand motivation, why people do what they do, you got a real leg up. And my theory is this. We've got non-problem solvers cast in the role of solving problems. The people that we have in Washington, D.C. and other places charged with solving problems aren't motivated to solve the problems. That's not.
Well, the problem is that we're not taxing billionaires. That has led to all kinds of problems, up to and including billionaires' ability to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on presidential campaigns. That is one of the biggest issues. In fact, that's why we're in our situation, because of that. If we taxed these billionaires, they'd be less, and banned donating money to politicians like that. We'd be in a much better situation, by far. How about getting rid of loopholes for ultra-wealthy and corporations that bring in revenue? That would bring in revenue, absolutely. Get rid of the loopholes and tax these motherfuckers into the ground. Tax them until they make, no more than 40 times what the lowest paid employee does in a company, in my opinion.
Not what they want to do. They don't want to solve the problems. They have a theory that, okay, if I solve this problem, I work myself out of a job.
Okay, that's just, like, what are you even talking about? Bullshit.
Samuel L. Jackson, the actor, is a friend of mine, and he says, my theory is every time I start a movie, I'm working myself out of a job.
What? Oh my God, don't tell me Samuel L. Jackson is a right-wing nutcase. Oh my God, dude, please, no. That's really sad.
And so I gotta have my agent have me 2 movies lined up before I start this one. And if he doesn't, I'm gonna fire his ass. Because every time I start, I'm working myself out of a job. I think these people think if I...
what does that even mean? What do you mean by that? You're working yourself out of a job by starring in a movie? I can see that for like a therapist, but an actor?
Every time I start, I'm working myself out of a job. I think these people think if I solve these problems, they don't need me anymore. They're not really, we got non-problem solvers in the role of solving problems. And that's where I think term limits could make sense. It's like, was it Gates that gave a bunch of money and said, this charity is going to last 25 years or something, then I'm shutting it down. So if you think this is just going to just give everybody a job forever, it's not. This is over in 20 years or whatever it was he said.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
So you got X amount of time to use this money to fix these problems, and then it's gone. That's what we've got to tell these people. You either fix these or we'll get somebody in here who will.
Okay. I mean, how is he acting like he's saying some revolutionary thing? What are you talking about?
Because you ain't going to be here forever. And that's a problem.
Let me build on that because
he's talking about term limits, I guess, right?
I agree with that completely. And then on top of that, guys, it requires a different skill set to get elected than to govern.
Oh,
right?
Does it ever?
Yeah. So the skill set to get elected is be a charmer, be a schmoozer. And that was in the past, a little bit still today, right? But once you get past the things that we all pay attention to, the presidential level, like we all see that. But the congressional level, we almost never see, right? And those guys are not even charming or schmoozers. 95% of the time, the person with more money wins. Doesn't matter if they're a Republican, doesn't matter if they're Democrat, liberal, conservative, nothing matters but the money 19 out of 20 times, right? So their skill set is collect money from donors, serve donors. When you go to govern, your skill set should be serve the voters. But we elected the wrong guys because we elected the guys who want to serve the donors.
That's why campaigns should be publicly funded. Everybody gets a certain amount of money that they're allowed to spend on it, and maybe they can get donations of under $100 per person if they want. No corporations, no super PACs, no PACs at all. No lobbyists unless they're individual human beings, not corporations that are lobbying. There are a lot of things we could do to fix our electoral system. And for some reason, Phil's solution is non-existent. To figure, has he even talked about how we can fix our... I mean, some woman earlier said term limits. You think that's going to fix the system? Yes, term limits. Great, fine, okay. Why didn't you throw literally anything else out?
That's why I say term limits, sure, but we've got to get big money out of politics.
Absolutely. Citizens United was a case in 2009 against... It was between Hillary Clinton and somebody else. I don't remember who. But it basically legalized money in politics and ruined the political landscape forever. as a result. Like did a number on our political system. It's just like really, really disturbing.
We don't. They're going to be serving those guys forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, they're bought and paid for. Okay, I think we got time for one more, and then we'll switch over because they're starting to file in. But we're not going to let you miss anything. We got it on a clock, and we're going to switch in time. So don't
Talking about the State of the Union address.
worry about it.
Yeah, State of the Union was just a bunch of propaganda. That's it. This is being filmed long after the State of the Union, so it's not like I haven't heard it. It was just a complete propagandistic train wreck. It was nothing but propagandistic lies the entire time.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Shakira, and I want to add to
Killer fucking name. Love that.
what you just said, because earlier when you asked, how do we think it's going the first 45 days? And that's exactly what I was thinking about. It's going as expected in my eyes, because we know who we had 8 years ago. We know exactly what we were working with. And so it's going exactly as expected and then some. And so it's been
Wait, is that good or?
prophetically spoken.
Oh, she thinks it's good. Okay, been prophetically spoken. So she's a Trump theologist then, it sounds like. Somebody that believes that Trump is the son of man. Like, basically Jesus. She thinks he's Jesus.
We know exactly what was to come. And so unfortunately, we're dealing with the aftermath. And we have people in office, people that are working, that are not really for their own, that are not really for others. They're really for themselves. And so until people
And how does she think that Trump is not for himself, but the people in office are?
recognize that, hey, we need to be able to look out for others. We need to take a look at every view, opposed to just throwing stuff out there. This is what we're working with.
Yeah, you're so right, and you're saying the same thing, Shakira. There's a different skill set between getting elected and serving, but you have so many IOUs by the time you get in the job. It's like, whoa, I sold my soul to get the job, but now I feel like I need to do the job, but I sold my soul, because everybody that put up all that money, they're now sitting out in the waiting room saying, all right, Jack, I got you elected. Now it's your time to pay off. And it's tough. It's tough. But if you get the money out, but what you said is empirically true. Is there a race where the one that spent the least has won in the last 100 years?
Yes, there are cases, but it is not as often. And sometimes it's like the worst person, actually. But, money is very clearly correlated with like political success or whatever. Clear as day. Donald Trump spent more than Kamala Harris, and he won, I believe, right? This is on Open Secrets, which is a pretty trustworthy website. It just kind of reports on how much money everybody is getting and all of that stuff. Okay, total raised by Kamala Harris. Harris for President, which is, I believe, the campaign, which is limited to small dollar donations, to my knowledge. I think, individual donors, not corporations, and I believe it can only be like up to $3,000 per person or something like that. That's the best way to do it. It looks like they raised the most. It looks like that raised more than her super PACs did by a wide margin. But Trump raised a lot more money through super PACs, which means he was corporately funded, like by a lot. Like super PACs raised way more than his personal campaign. He raised a total of $463 million personally, just like his campaign, small dollar donations, I believe. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, raised $1.2 billion in small dollar donations. She brought in, what is that, like 120% more money than Trump? But Trump got, I'm sorry, I just think this is an interesting subject. Let me try to do some calculations here. Trump brought in $463 million, but raised a total of $1.4 billion. So that means basically $1 billion was raised by Donald Trump from super PACs, from corporations that donated to organizations that are not affiliated with Donald Trump, quote unquote. Right for America, Turnout for America, Make America Great Again, Inc., America PAC, Texas, RBG PAC, super PACs like that. Make America Great Again is another PAC, apparently, raised $20 million. So anyway, he raised $1 billion from corporations, pretty much, as opposed to Kamala Harris. And I think, okay, so she raised 843 million from super PACs. She was 843, he was $1 billion. 843 million to $1 billion. She raised 1.2 billion from small dollar donors, and he raised 450 million from small dollar donors. Their large contributions constituted $692 million for Harris, $692 million. And for Trump, large dollar donations were $321 million. Small individual donations were $133 million, 28%. Wow, this is an interesting website. Small individual contributions for Kamala Harris under $200 was 41% of her contributions. 41%. Let people like me and you. Trump had 28% people like me and you. Pretty much every other amount was large corporations or filthy rich people. Very interesting. 700 million were large contributions, but still individuals, I believe, if I'm reading this correctly. But I could be wrong. It's just what I'm picking up here. So the impression that I'm getting here is Kamala Harris raised a lot more through small dollar donations, but still lost. She raised less in corporate donations. Trump raised more in corporate donations and won. So it sounds like it's like a little bit more nuanced than just the rich person wins every time. It's maybe like the rich person wins if that money came from big corporations.
Yes.
Step back here.
What you said is empirically true. Is there a race where the one that spent the least has won in the last 100 years?
That might actually be Donald Trump. It's just that like all of the money that he spent was from corporations, I believe.
Yes, it's 95% of the time the person with more money wins.
Who was it?
So I started a group called Justice Democrats, and almost all of them, and some of you might or might not like some of the folks in there, but AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, etc. But those folks had less money, and they won anyway. And by the way, the reason they had less money, again, you might disagree on some social issues, but they didn't take any corporate PAC money. So at least they're honest. So it's in the same Bernie Sanders wing where at least we're being honest about where we're coming from.
I don't believe that we should not take corporate PAC money. I believe that we absolutely should take corporate PAC money and lobby to change it. I believe that we should use the system until it can be fixed, personally.
From agree or disagree, right? But it's very hard to do.
But has there been a president that spent less money on a presidential election?
Donald Trump.
Yeah, Trump won that spent less money. But again, more corporate money.
Well, okay, that's true. But he didn't. He didn't have to buy. He didn't have to buy media because
that's exactly right.
He brought the circus.
There you go. There you go. There you go. That's right. That's a good observation.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, the Democrats don't understand that. Try to be interesting. Right? I mean, especially at the presidential level where we're having still not a money battle because Trump is winning with less money than Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris.
But more media.
But way more media. And so the Democrats keep, even to this day, they have this crazy idea that is like now leading within Democratic circles in Congress of let's just do nothing and wait for the Republicans to hurt themselves.
What was that idiot?
My God, do something. Do something. Be interesting. Be exciting. Fight for your voters.
What was that idiot drill we were watching today? They were doing, we were on the news. They were running that new ad campaign they had.
Oh, yeah. So they're talking about how they all have the same talking point. They got it from a Democratic consultant and about how, oh, they're for their billionaire buddies and we're for you guys. Yes, but I wish you were, right? So like what the Democrats need to understand is your policy, in my opinion, your policies are pretty good on economic stuff, right? But you've got
Republicans' policies are good on economic stuff? What are you smoking? No, they're not? Where did you get that idea? Who told you that, Cenk? Have you been paying any attention at all to what's happening right now?
to actually do them. If you don't do them, you don't get any credit for them. So don't tell me what a Democratic consultant told you to say. I mean, you're talking about billionaire buddies, brothers.
Oh, is he talking about Democrats have better economic policy? Yeah, definitely. Absolutely they do. But it's not like superb.
You guys have billionaire buddies too. Who are you kidding? That is why the one thing that Joe Biden said that was fundamentally true was when he said to his donors, nothing will fundamentally change. And that's what this room is saying. No, we don't want that. We don't want the status quo. And then sometimes folks like Trump, they upset the status quo a little too much, a little wrong in the wrong direction. But
What'd you call it a minute ago? Crony capitalism?
yeah.
Is that your term?
No, I didn't invent it, but
Oh.
yeah, but it's also called corporatism and crony capitalism. That's when corporations capture the government.
Steal it from you.
Dude, this stream that they did is really bad. It keeps like cutting out and stuff. This isn't me, and it's not my internet or anything. This is just like really poor streaming, I guess. I mean, I can't knock it. I'm really bad at streaming sometimes too. So I just expected more of like a high production value show like Phil. I can't tell if it's playing.
Have to do it.
There it is.
But what do you guys think about all the executive orders that were signed? Is that a
They're illegal, 99% of them, and Trump is completely ignoring the courts to make it even worse. He's not supposed to rule like a king. He's ruling like a king right now. We explicitly and intentionally didn't want that when we formed out the American system of governance. The president is banned from calling himself a king for a reason.
good thing or is that a bad thing? If doing the things he did by executive order was a good thing to break the stalemate, raise your hand. If you think that's a good thing, raise your hand real high so the camera can see it so we can kind of count them later. Okay.
What he's doing is literally like it's a dictator move. Democracy moves slow for a reason. The filibuster was in place to protect democracy. And it used to be you can stand up there. All right. You can vote something into law with 50 people, 50 votes, or 51, a simple majority, 51 votes in the Senate out of 100. But if the other side wants to filibuster, then they say, I'm going to filibuster now. They stand up there and speak in perpetuity until until they don't want to speak anymore, until they get rid of the bill or whatever. But someone has to be up there speaking. Ted Cruz got up there under the filibuster rule and read Green Eggs and Ham. At one point in American history, somebody read an entire book up there, and an entire book was recorded into the congressional record. I don't remember what the name of the book was now, but anyway, that's how the filibuster used to work. Like, if you feel strongly about this, that this should not be passed, there's something that you can do as a senator. You stand up there and you talk for the next 12 hours, and you tag somebody else in to talk for the next 12, as long as Congress is in session, which is not 24 hours a day. It's not 7 days a week necessarily. It's not 12 months a year. As long as Congress is in session, you have to be doing this filibuster thing. And it was hard. Congressmen don't like to work, as it turns out. So more often than not, unless it was really, really bad, the bill would just pass with a simple majority, 51. Until Mitch McConnell did away with the filibuster rule. It's called the nuclear option. And it made it so you don't have to talk. You just need 60 people to agree on anything to pass something. That brought Congress to complete gridlock. It made it impossible to get anything done, anything. Because the Senate will never have 60 Democrats or 60 Republicans unless something is like, rigged to manufacture that type of situation. That's when gridlock happened. That was the beginning of the end for democracy in the United States when he did that. And now Trump is just completely ignoring, the law, completely ignoring it. Executive orders out the wazoo. They were never supposed to be laws like this. Hitler used the Enabling Act in Germany in March 1933. I think March 20 something, 1933. And the Enabling Act basically gave him the ability to write executive orders that had the force of law behind them. He could legislate from his position with the Enabling Act. And that is a lot of power to put into someone's hands. A lot. In fact, it shouldn't be in someone's hands, that level of power. It's not in the president's hands. We have a check on that. It's called judicial review, which was established in Marbury versus Madison. No. It wasn't Marbury versus Madison. What the hell was it? The judge was John Marshall. Maybe it was Marbury versus Madison. The judge was John Marshall, the Supreme Court justice. He's the one, I believe, that established judicial review. And yeah, maybe it was Marbury versus Madison. That established the writ of mandamus. No, maybe that was... God, somebody knows the answer to this, and I don't remember it. Anyway, judicial review is where the Supreme Court can determine if what is being done is legal, and if the executive order can be ordered in the first place. The Enabling Act did not have that. Didn't have that protection. And now Donald Trump is ignoring that protection. So it is effectively exactly like Donald Trump used the Enabling Act. In every way, it is identical to the Enabling Act in effect, because he's ignoring it, because he's ignoring the protections. That was March 1933, and Trump started his descent into madness the end of January 2025. Hitler took control January 28th, 1933, I believe. Shit started to get real early February, and then it got really intense late February. And by March, it was pretty much all over. It took, I think, 53 days for everything to completely fall apart, for democracy to disintegrate in Germany. 53 days, I believe. That's a little over Ted's reading level. I'm impressed. Yeah, right. Green eggs and ham.
Okay, if you think, no, that's too much like being a king, raise your hand. That bothered some of you, but not.
Yeah, the executive orders. Yeah, it is too much like being a king. It is. It absolutely is. The founding fathers never intended for that to happen. Never. They never intended for that. They explicitly intended otherwise.
Not too many. Well, you're okay with some of them.
Yeah, so I like the action. Some of the
Oh my God, they're cutting out again. It's like really poor quality. I don't like the action because it's like acting like a king. That's basically what's happening right now. Are they starting now? Is that what's happening? Yeah, it looks like they're starting it. Well, anyway, wow. I mean, I don't want to listen to the State of the Union because it's irrelevant. I just want to listen to Cenk and Phil's, little thing or whatever. That's fascinating. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Just like disgusting, sad stuff. I'm less upset with Cenk's appearance on this than some of the other appearances that he's done. Because he didn't say as much stupid shit, but there's a lot of stupid shit that he did say. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments.